Welcome to Nightshift Top Secret Information, the show where myself and political commentators, social media influencer and comedian Anthony Ramonde and conservative ants on the social media webs dive down the rabbit hole, investigating or learning more about all things paranormal activity, conspiracy theories, things that go bump in the night, the things that keep you awake and shuddering. Tonight, we have a very special guest from Anti-Hero Podcast. His name is Tyler, and he reached out to us. He is a former combat veteran and now active police officer who has a lot of theories regarding the Mandalay Bay mass shooting. Today's show brought to you by ghostbed.com/ant. That is ANT for Anthony. Get you 50% off. And then also factormeals.com/wolfpack50. 50% off meal planning to the next level. Without further ado, I bring to you guys conservative ants and Tyler from the Anti-Hero Podcast. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. We're coming off of a very paranormal show where we had Brittany Investigates, who's a very famous Discovery Channel, Travel Channel. She's been on all the channels investigating all sorts of paranormal activity, ghost hunting, along with her brother from the Motley Croc Show. What a great duo that was on our last show. If you haven't had a chance, please go back and listen to it. But today we are switching gears from paranormal to conspiracy theories, and we're going to talk about the Mandalay Bay. Now, listen, this is why it's important for you guys to support us in this endeavor, because it shows like this that will get shadow banned on other platforms that aren't audio platforms, YouTube's and all the other places, the TikToks and all those things. Oftentimes you will buy a pizza and you'll go to pick up the pizza and they will swivel the credit card machine around for you then to leave a tip for something that doesn't necessarily deserve a tip. Now, I'm not saying that we're cooking you a fresh pizza ready to consume, but I'm also not going to ask you for a monetary tip on today's show. What I am going to ask, though, because this is free entertainment, is that you just leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you consume audio podcasts. And then if you would, you could also follow us on our Instagram, Nightshift TSI, or you could subscribe to the Failure to Stop podcast channel. Don't be a cheap ass. Just go and leave a 5-star rating and review. With all of that out of the way, Tyler, what made you want to come to Anthony and I's podcast to talk to us about the mass shooting of Mandalay Bay?
Well, like, if you talk to anybody about that shooting and you go, hey, there's probably a lot of evidence to say that it's not the way it went down. People go, for real? And they have no idea. But I remember looking at it like, what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when it happened? And there was all kinds of evidence online that you could sit there and decipher for yourself. And now it's been completely scrubbed or just toppled over. There's one page that we'll pull from today that has a lot of good evidence. But other than that, it's really hard to find the things I used to find. But the biggest thing for me was, Eric, coming out of the military, you will never forget the sound of a crew serve weapon. Those things are like the BBCs of weapons. They're fucking huge. They're monsters, right? So,
right. Yes. The 240, the 50 caliber. By the way, when for the listeners out there, or for Anthony here, a crew serve weapon is a weapon that's typically mounted on a tripod on a vehicle, and that's your big boy gun that shoots a higher caliber ammunition a little bit faster than what everybody is carrying as their personal weapons or their sidearms. Does that make sense, Anthony? A big gun on a tripod for the layman would be.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And, fortunately for me, I was pretty apt for 3 of those crew serve weapons. My main crew serve weapon that I maintained, fired very often was the 240 Bravo, followed by the 50 caliber, the Mod Deuce, and then the Mark 19 grenade launcher. And I'm pretty proficient in all 3 of those crew serve weapons. What about you, Tyler? What was your crew serve? Did you serve on a crew serve weapon? Were you a gunner or an AG on any kind of crew serve weapon?
Yeah, I was a 50 cal gunner. I was in the Widowmaker, truck number 1 on every convoy. So that was the truck where they would place. We never got hit. My truck never got hit, thank God. But I was the gunner for lead truck, which was that's where they would put their EFPs and stuff. But so I just know that the 50 cal makes a very distinct noise, and the 240 Bravo makes a very distinct noise. I mean, the Saw even though it's 5.56, which shoots the same rounds as an AR-15, it still has a distinct noise to it. It's a distinct rate of fire.
It has a rhythm, and I would say more so than sound. The rhythm, the thud of a 50 cal is a very specific rhythm versus the rhythm and thud of a 240. You can often decipher which weapon is being fired simply by the rhythm. A 50 cal would sound like this. A 240 would sound like that, and a Saw would be like, is that good? Was that good?
We're all fucked.
That was the
head.
greatest way to do it. So just to give, just to refresh everyone's memory real quick, because this was back in 2017, right? And we don't hear about it anymore, literally anymore, ever again. I've never heard about it again. And I just want to kind of give the Wikipedia's description of that day, and it'll refresh our memories a little bit. And then Tyler, you can give us a little, start off on.
I can't wait to see what Wikipedia says about
Yeah,
that.
I had to pull it up.
Enlighten.
I had to pull it up because and by the way, when you Google search it literally Wikipedia is like the first thing that comes up on the description. So I want to give you that description. I also want to quote Wikipedia. This is not me saying it. This is what I found on Wikipedia. On October 1st, 2017, a mass shooting occurred when 64-year-old Stephen Paddock opened fire on the crowd attending the Route 61 Harvest Music Festival on the Las Vegas Strip in Nevada from his 32nd floor suites at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. He fired more than 1,000 rounds, killing 60 people and wounded at least 413. The ensuing panic brought the total number of injured to approximately 867 people. About an hour later, he was found dead in his room from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The motive for the shooting is officially undetermined. The incident is the deadliest mass shooting by a single gunman in American history. It focused attention on firearm laws in the U.S., particularly, with regard to bump stocks, which Paddock used to fire shots in rapid sessions at a rate similar to that of automatic firearms. Bump stocks were banned by the U.S. Justice Department in December of 2018, but the constitutionality of the ban remains under review until 2012, when the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case.
Wow. Imagine that.
And I think 2017 was at the height of this new mass shooting era that we kind of went into. You know how we kind of go into themes here in this country, Black Lives Matter, racism. Now we're into the anti-Semitism kind of thing.
Don't forget the soup community.
The Asian hate. The what
the
one?
Trans community, the soup community.
The trans phase. A lot of phases here, guys. This was at the height of this mass shooting phase. We weren't really saying the word mass shooting too much. By the way, you said that he fired 1,000 rounds. A basic load for an infantry soldier is about 210 rounds, 7 magazines. If you're in the special operations side, you never work with a basic load. You always typically work with a double basic load, which would be 420 rounds or 14 magazines for grenades. So with carrying a double basic load of even 420 rounds of 5.56 ammo on a gun. Now, a double basic load for a 240 would be significantly more than that. But a 420 round double basic load can really sustain a very long firefight. You can do a lot of work in a lot of time with 420 rounds. The fact that somebody got 1,000 rounds off, that quickly, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this thing, Eric. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of reloads that have to happen if we're going to do 1,000 rounds. And remember, if 14 magazines is 420, you're talking 28 magazines are double that, which is what, 880?
One of the biggest things that I want everybody to take away from once we start breaking this down is that it's just like Anthony said, there's no motive. The FBI can't figure out a reason why this guy did this. There's just no motive whatsoever, no rhyme or reason. And then they closed the case August 2018, the world's biggest mass shooting.
You can't close a case like that.
You got to leave that one open.
1 year.
And also, I'm sorry, but just I'm sitting here thinking about why is first off, so why is this hotel still standing? Because I've noticed like a common thing around the American culture when it comes to these like high profile mass shootings. Typically, the place where the shootings take place, and I know that he shot out the window, so technically it didn't happen inside the Mandalay Bay, but I know with a lot of high profile shootings in the United States, they usually close the location after the shooting because of the history that now it has and the tarnish on that specific location. So the fact that Mandalay Bay, and I believe it's still in operation. Am I right, guys? Like, this is not something that's no longer in operation. This is still a running hotel. Do they just have that specific room closed off? Which, if I am reading this correctly, I don't know. I just had it here, which room he was in. But like, is that room not in operation anymore? Why is the Mandalay Bay still in business? Like, all these questions come to mind. Because I remember Sandy Hook, we knocked that school down right away. And I get it. It was mass shooting in a school. It was terrible.
Pulse is a huge memorial. It's a giant memorial now in Orlando, and I'm assuming too, these owners of these businesses, they get eventually compensated by some kind of grant or federal, they can't just be like, hey, sorry about your luck. Shooting happened here. You lose everything. There's probably some kind of influx of income that come in to assist in shutting down the building and making it a memorial. And also, who shoots themselves? You know where his self-inflicted gunshot wound was?
Where?
In his chest. I know it's happened. I know there's weird cases where people are like, I want to feel pain. But statistically, if you're going to fucking kill yourself when the cops are coming up the stairs, like, everyone's coming, you're going to end it.
Is it the wound that killed him was a chest wound from the police officers that entered the room? Or
that's the only...
like he shot him? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do they know that he did it?
It was
guys. Sorry, real quick. So it was the 32nd floor. So if anybody is in Vegas and ends up going to 30, like, it's a Mandalay Bay, like, it was the 32nd floor. Just
32nd floor, room 135. And
yeah. So according to the AP in 2023, by the way, the motive here, as they would like to put it, was apparently, this is how they word it, quote, was apparently angry over how the casinos were treating him despite his high roller status, according to a fellow gambler. Okay, so when have you ever listen? We're both law enforcement officers. I'm an ex-law enforcement officer, but I was a big city cop for a while, and you're a big city cop now. When do we ever use the word apparently in an official statement? Like, apparently this guy didn't like his wife. That's why he murdered her.
Apparently. He said it. He said it in some way. Exactly. This guy would have had to have said this at some point in time. So where I would go, okay, this guy stated at one point in time, blah, 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 blah. You don't just go, hey, apparently, you could even use third party. You could say someone said that he said this. That's fine. It's just got to be some kind of fact.
Right. So this is just hearsay that was published for propaganda purposes, because in no other time in the history would any Associated Press or the like, any mainstream media, use the words apparently. He didn't like the way that casinos were treating him, according to a fellow gambler. That's very strange because, we would have given the name of the fellow gambler. I feel like the media if there was a case and a blood gang member or a Crip gang member in Southside Chicago whacks somebody, they would say like Octavius Javar stated that, Tyrone Hinton didn't like blood gang members.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually how police reports go. But to answer your question, the only autopsy released was Stephen Paddock's autopsy, the shooter. Everybody else's autopsy wasn't released. It had to be investigative journalists had to go get their autopsies. All the victims that were deceased on that night. And guess what? The trajectory of the rounds pretty much all of them did not match the 32nd floor coming down. A lot of them were straight from above. So that gets into another thing that if we have time we can talk about. But even
plenty of time. So what are you suggesting here? And where's this information coming from that the autopsy trajectory wasn't the same?
So I'm pretty much, I have to cite a guy named John E. Hoover, no relation, even though that's my dad's name. It's kind of weird, but he has an entire page of YouTube for conspiracies. A lot of them of which are Las Vegas. He studied Las Vegas for like 2 years straight, every day, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. So he knows. And
it is one of those things that why if it's the largest mass shooting, I think what's very strange about this and why it's open to such conspiracy theories is why don't we hear about it? Like we hear about Sandy Hook, or we hear about the Nashville shooting. We hear about Pulse. Why don't we hear anything about the Vegas shooting? It's not memorialized in any way, shape, or form.
So there is apparently a memorial set up in Vegas for this. Okay. I was looking that up. And the room, so grieving families tearing down a building and replacing it with a memorial feels right. In other cases, people refer to it as a special marker. So MGM said this is back in 2017, shortly after the shooting, which was October 28th. This is from the LA Times. Room 32-135 at the Mandalay Bay Resort will no longer see another guest. So that room is closed off. It will never see another guest. My question to that is, you're right. We don't hear anything about it. And my mind goes to, why don't we ever see anybody go to that site and go to the room? I mean, I know that there's a lot of like supernatural people. There's a lot of conspiracy people. There's a lot of people that used to go to like the site of, Dahmer, where that apartment building was taken down. But people go to that site because they're interested in it, right? There's a lot of creepy stuff. So I've never seen a video of anybody going to the door of the Mandalay Bay. Have you ever heard or seen any videos of anybody going to that hotel room and taking pictures with it? When I look up pictures of the room door, there's one. On the entire I can't find any pictures of the door.
What about the parking lot where it occurred, where they had the concert? Does that still have concerts?
Yeah, no clue. I don't have any idea. And I'm looking while you guys are talking. I'm looking into it.
I think what's even more like fun to go down the rabbit hole is that Mandalay Bay is one of the MGM, one of the 9, I believe it's 9 MGM hotels. Is it hotel or motel, by the way?
Hotel. Motels where you pay $50 and there's a lot of drugs and hookers around.
Hotel is one that goes upwards.
Wait. So the whole floor is going away. So the 32nd floor at the Mandalay Bay, strongly associated with October 1st shooting, is going away. Mandalay Bay is remembering floors 31 through 34 as floors 56 through 59. Owner MGM Resorts International said on Tuesday, the floors number will change by the end of the week. They changed the floor numbers.
Yeah, when
never happened.
Ed, what was that? What was that article from? What date?
So this is Las Vegas Review Journal. This article was put out here. Let me get the date. Usually it's on top. February 6th of 2018. So
very quickly, by the way, on that. In MGM, it's owned by George Soros. So,
It
you know,
is.
and if you've ever heard George Soros says that any decision that he makes, he does not, you know, there was a great clip, and I'll put it on Nightshift at TSI's Instagram page. It's a phenomenal clip of George Soros saying that he does not recognize any moral or ethical implication of the decisions he makes. He only makes decisions based on what's monetarily in his favor. Now, I couldn't tell you why it's monetarily in favor that there be another mass shooting, but what I will say is that he is very in tune to a lot of conspiracies. He's at the head of a lot of conspiracies, right there alongside of the Rothschilds and the Vanguards and all the thing. And listen, there's a lot of stuff between George Soros and John Podesta that go on here. So definitely, when we're talking about the world of conspiracy theories, we have a lot of key chess pieces.
I have another one for you guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh my God, our listeners are going to be like mind blown. I'm mind blown. So the hotel itself had an unorthodox numbering system already. So the 43-story building had floor numbering system with system even before the shooting. So Mandalay Bay elevators showed stops at floor 1 through 34 and 60 through 63. There was no 40 through 59. Floor 35 through 39 are managed by the Four Seasons Hotel and have a separate elevator. What?
Yeah, for the rich elites that are bringing up their children to play with.
Yep.
Possibly. I mean, possibly.
And that'll tie into the helicopter theory, but just so we can kind of like, I want everybody, when they listen to these clips, I know Josh has pulled a couple clips. Think old 64-year-old man with a bump stock, right? Now you have to be trained with a bump stock to even get it to shoot like a fully automatic weapon. If I don't know how to shoot a bump stock, if I took a bump stock out there right now, it would maybe go and it would stop because you have to pull it. You have to pull it into you to get that, I don't know if anybody knows what a bump stock is. I barely do, clearly.
Yeah, a bump stock, it's basically, without losing anybody, it's a bump stock has springs in it. And so as the recoil of the weapon presses into your shoulder and it releases, your finger pulls the trigger.
How much would 1,000 rounds on a bump stock? How could a 60
you wouldn't be able to do it out of one rifle without just absolutely melting that barrel down. And if you've ever fired a weapon until the barrel was super hot, the barrel will actually, have you ever done the pencil trick where you hold the pencil in your two fingers and it gets like wavy? Yeah. That happens in real life with the barrel once it gets golden hot, and it'll start whipping rounds all over the fucking place.
I think they had multiple AR-15s in the room. Another fun fact:
the bathtub was filled with guns. How did he even walk up there with those?
Well, we'll get to that. Well, hold on one second.
Oh, okay.
There was no forensic testing done on any of those firearms. Did you know that? No forensic testing. There is no fucking proof that those fucking firearms killed anybody. They found bullets.
Come on, how is that? Nobody would allow that to pass. I mean, unless the FBI was just, whoever is in charge of the investigation from the FBI would have to be the most, evil person on the planet to allow something like that to slip by.
Yeah.
So how would you explain, just to be contrary to the conspiracy, what group of the FBI would be like, we're not going to do forensics on this? And then, it would have to be at the highest level.
Well, when you close the fucking case 10 months into it, you don't really get a lot of time. That would take,
which is bonkers to me because, we've had officer involved shootings. I'm sure you've been involved in some kind of your departmental officer involved shooting. Those officers, it can be a very basic and simple shoot. And those officers, that investigation, 10, 11, 12 months on one cop shooting one scumbag, that's pretty cut clear. Sometimes the cop gets shot and shoots the guy back. And you're still talking 10, 11, 12, 13 months for an investigation. The fact that many people died from something that bizarre and the investigation took 10 months.
Yeah, that's insane. And to answer Anthony's question, they've already set all this up. They had him rolling through employee entrances with suitcases full of guns. He really did have the guns. He really did have the ammo. He brought all that in. There's a whole nother subtopic of was he mentally ill and was he groomed? And the answer is yes. But that's a whole nother. You would have to do all the research.
So your conspiracy theory is that he was groomed by an FBI agent, similar to the way the guys who allegedly tried to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer were groomed by the 6 FBI.
Groomed by somebody with a bigger agenda.
That doesn't happen. The Gretchen Whitmer case is a real case that really happened. That's not a theory. It's not a conspiracy. Well, it was a conspiracy because they conspired to make this happen. But essentially, very quickly, is 2 very rednecky, trailer park driven, alcoholic, no vehicle, was hanging out with another degenerate who was trying to work some charges off at the FBI, but he was unable to work those charges off because he was too much of a low man on the totem pole. And so he's having a marijuana smoke and some brewskis with these 2 other rednecks in a trailer that don't have a car. And they were talking about, like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could kidnap Gretchen Whitmer and kill her? Wouldn't that just be the best thing ever? So this other guy goes back to his FBI handlers and he's like, I got these 2 guys. They want to kill Gretchen Whitmer. What do you think about that? And so he's like, well, I'm going to go in there with you undercover and we're going to talk to him and see what's happening. And they're like, oh, would you, if I've got guns, if I had the guns, would you be able to pull this off? And they were like, yeah, but we don't have a car. And he's like, well, I can get you a car. And he's like, hang on, let me get you. And then he brings in another FBI agent. And then they come up with this plan to blow up a bridge so that they can't be chased. So they bring in another FBI agent with explosives and they coordinate this entire thing. So you have 2 dumb rednecks with no car, and 6 people who work for the FBI, informants and FBI agents, to carry out a kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. And of course, once this went before a jury, these guys were acquitted in less than 2 hours, found not guilty, and the Department of Justice went and recharged them, and they didn't have a jury trial, and they are now sitting in prison. That's real. Really happened. So
that really
that FBI grooming, for those of you who don't believe that can't happen.
100% can happen. And then when you guys are ready to hear this part, because I was so curious if anybody I had just said, has anybody been there since or whatever? A TikToker actually went there just in 2023 and has a whole conspiracy on the hotel. If you want to hear it.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Tyler, is that okay? Are we interrupting you? Are we fucking up your rhythm here?
Who, me?
No, Tyler.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. I just want to make sure
let's hear what you got.
So a viral video, a TikToker exposed the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino for covering up the room where the Las Vegas mass shooting shot and killed concert goers. While at the Mandalay Bay Resort, TikToker Tom, his handle is Side Money Tom, so you guys can look him up, discovered that the hotel literally covered up the room for where the shooting happened, making it more difficult for people to find, removing it as one of the rooms open to guests and potentially sealing it off so no one or only authorized hotel workers could go in. So the video is showing different floors of the hotel. The viewer can clearly see that the parking lot where the music festival happened back in 2017, sorry. It's so exciting because this is such a conspiracy. Tom wanted to access the 32nd floor where the mass shooting happened, but said that the elevator wouldn't take him there. So he had to find out for himself and take the stairs. He said once he was on the 32nd floor, now has a number that says 50s. As he walked past the 30th floor that was labeled, now it jumps to 56. He says they literally changed the numbers because of this. And then he said on floor 57, formerly 32, Tom shows where the room would have been, and it's patched up. It's patched up where the hotel room door was, and now it's a painted wall with a large piece of hanging art adjusted to the door handle, and it just looks like the wall, literally just covered up, closed off, totally sealed off to all the rooms, Tom said. Not saying it's a cover-up, but I'm saying it's a cover-up.
Oh, man.
But they've covered it up.
It's a literal cover-up.
Unbelievable.
it gets
That is
great.
wild. Now listen, there's some people out there that don't like to play the game, and they probably haven't made it this far into the show. But just in case that you've made it this far into the show, I would like you to just open your mind for 1 second and ask yourself, how is it that these atrocities have so many improbabilities? So, for instance, if you want to go with the 9/11 thing, we've got these two pilots who are able to fly very low to the ground, find the Pentagon, get low enough to the Pentagon, fly through into the Pentagon, and there just happens that, or there's just so many things that just the planets had to align to make these things work out perfectly. Whenever the military tries to do something like this, the helicopters crash, or there's a lone survivor situation. Nothing ever just works out perfectly. For this mass shooter, one, he has to get all this ammo and guns undetected from his house to Las Vegas. Okay, step number one. Step number two, he's got to then get all of those past security and into a hotel. Great, he did it. 2 for 2. Then he's got to get into the room, and then he's got to expertly fire these weapons without the ammo being malfunctioning, right? We've had bad ammo. By the way, what I mean by bad ammo is some of these rounds, if you're firing 1,000 rounds, chances are even 20 of those rounds are going to be or are going to be considered bad or dud. Either the firing pin is unable to ignite the cap, the blasting cap, or there's not enough powder to create the recoil. One of those rounds out of 1,000 is going to be bad, causing some sort of malfunction. Now, the rate of fire that we're going to I hopefully hear from you and see in these videos, Tyler, I don't want to be, these are so many things had to go right for him to accomplish this atrocity that you can't help but go,
Yeah. So there's 3 things that we're going to break down, 3 little topics, and that I think are very important to talk about. One is comparing the muzzle flashes from room 32-135 from the window. I do believe there's some theories that the window was never broken. It was on Fox News. They questioned it a little bit. I do believe that he did shoot. And the person that I'm drawing all this from, John E. Hoover, who studied this entire case, does say that he was shooting, but he was shooting at some weird tank and he didn't shoot anybody. He had instructions to shoot. They needed the muzzle flashes. They had to have these, right, to make this legit. So there is muzzle flashes. So you'll see him shoot and you'll hear the audible sound with the muzzle flash, and then you'll hear audible sound that doesn't sound like that gun, and there's no muzzle flash coming from that room, indicating that unless he's fucking jumping into vortexes and using different types of guns, there's at least one more shooter, right? Anybody who watches that would go, that's weird, right? The second thing is,
we have that video or no?
Yeah, Josh has it. Josh has it, and then there's another theory. We'll just jump into that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and play that for us, Josh, if you would.
Which one do you want?
What do you want from me? It's I don't know. It's the second one I sent you. So
also, I'm gonna try to get this guy on our show, Tansy.
Hoover?
No, the TikToker that went there. I want to talk to him.
Oh, I know. I want to get this John Hoover on there too.
Yeah.
We could do like a whole group show with Tyler and all the Hoovers, the TikTokers.
He lives in or he's got 48,000 YouTube.
Of course, what are the chances this show's is gonna be a viral hit, Anthony? I mean, this was gonna be another one of those extremely shadow banned episodes. So good luck with this one.
I'm not sure if the audio will transfer over or not.
Oh, the audio is so important. Try it.
You should have music if it does transfer.
No, it doesn't. All right. Well, you can go to Johnny Hoover's page and look, and
I can try. I can do it on mine. I think I have the audio on mine. Keep talking, and I'll get it worked out.
And then another thing is, so there's again video footage. I know you and Josh were looking at it when I joined the stream. There's helicopters in the air, and these John has gone through and tried to find any type of manifest, tourism, emergency, police, helicopters that are flying around. And a lot of the theory is that these shots were taken from a bird. They were taken from a bird. You can see lights moving. No one can explain these helicopters.
Now,
And
do you think that would be like a drone type sitch, or do you think that would be like a helicopter type sitch?
No, I think that there's people hanging off birds with. They were far. They weren't close. Whoa.
They were far.
Yeah, they were far, but there's eyewitness testimonies that said they were interviewed at the scene that said, I think the shooting's coming from a helicopter, or I think the shooting came from a helicopter. So, but you don't see any of those interviews anymore.
Okay, let's see if you can hear this. Here we go. Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just pause right there. That is two guns. I just heard two singing guns.
Yeah.
And if you're in the military, a singing gun is we don't want to reload at the same time. So I might say, Tyler, you go for like a 5 to 7 second burst, and I'll do 3 to 5 second bursts, and that way we're not out of ammo. So I would go like, and he would go, and then I would go, and then he would go, and it's singing fires. That way we're not reloading at the same time. If we go and we play this back, what you're gonna hear is one guy, and then another guy going, Let's see if we can hear that.
I love the sound.
Did you hear that? Did you hear the reflection there? That's two guns.
What a lot of people will try and say that the clacking is the rounds hitting the pavement, and also the lower sound is echo coming from inside the building. But if you listen,
I've never been in a shootout in a big city. I have been in active firefights inside a village or a town, and the mountains kind of create a similar effect. Again, now we're talking about another perfect situation, because
exactly.
I think anybody else, like any soldier in any gunfight and anywhere in the world, would say right in that moment, that's two shooters. He wouldn't say, oh, that's shooters and echo. No, I think you would. I think it's pretty. I'd like to get some other experts on here that have been in more gun battles, but I'm going to go ahead and play that back. Let's play it back. Let's just play it back. Here we go.
You hear that? There's no echo. There would be an echo for every round shot.
What is it?
The tone even changes.
What's that?
The tone even changes. The first ones are a higher pitch clack, and then the second series is a lower, deeper clack.
Right. That's very odd. It's a very haunting sound. I don't think, and listen, we got to remember, this guy's got to pull off 1,000 rounds
with a bump stock, dude. He doesn't even have
rounds. It's not easy to do. I don't know that you can put, a single load of 210 rounds. Now think about that. A single, like a basic, I shouldn't say single, a basic load. And listen, I've got 40, I got 7 years total in the military, 4 of those years being in a Green Beret unit. I was in a special operations unit. I deployed with a special operations unit. I rode on the crew serve weapons with special operations unit. These are all things I'm very familiar with. I'm not, I wouldn't go as far as saying I'm an expert, but I'm very familiar. I'm familiar enough with them. A basic infantry load, 82nd Airborne, 101st, basic infantryman carries 210 rounds. 210. Think about the firefights that you see going on in Vietnam or World War II, or Iraq, Desert Storm. Those guys have 210 rounds. Why? Because 210 rounds can sustain you for a very significant firefight. This guy has 1,000.
Yep.
1,000. Can I keep playing this, Tyler?
Yeah.
We're gonna get trampled if we don't go. We're gonna get trampled if we don't go. Let's go. Come on. Come on.
has the shooting just stopped?
I didn't send this video, so I don't know. I haven't reviewed this one, but I mean, I don't know. The whole thing
I'll keep playing it. Let me just keep playing it. How fast? Yeah, there's some good angles here coming up. Let me just keep playing it. There it is. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, that sounds like a sustained firefight.
That's a 240 all day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I just heard it for like even a half a second and was like, whatever clip that is, that's a 240 Bravo. 100%.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me say it again. I'll say it with conviction.
Right there. You're listening to fucking multiple guns go off, one of them which is at least one of them a crew serve weapon.
But how can they? So
I can.
for somebody there's millions of people like you both that can definitely say that. What my mind would go to if they reviewed the video and and we're talking about, this is an amateur podcast, but investigators saw all the different videos and there's no conclusion to this.
Well, you know, I have a really good friend of mine. Listen, one of the groomsmen in my wedding has multiple Purple Hearts, very deep into special operations, was actually shot in the neck on a child sex prostitution takedown in Carreña, Colombia. Another one of my groomsmen is head sniper of one of the biggest departments in America, and he's the lead sniper, which means he's on the FBI call out list for sniper. He pretty much he does sniping from helicopters. I mean, there's nobody that I know that's better trained or has had more time under a scope than this guy in real world situations. And I know you'd be like, well, what about the Navy SEALs and stuff? No, this guy is under scope almost every single day in a real life, real world scenario, every day of his entire fucking life. My business partner is a tier 1 Delta operator. Anti-Hero podcast. You're with a Delta Force operator on your podcast as well. But I've had conversations with all 3 of my groomsmen about this case when it happened. And when I called my buddy, who is the lead sniper in this large agency, he was the one that pointed out to me. He said, yo, Eric, there's more than one shooter there. There's more than one shooter. Did you hear that 240? And I said, there was a 240? And he said, there's a 240. And the minute he pushed play, I was like, no shit, that's a 240. You can't convince me otherwise that that's not a 240 Bravo. I've lived and breathed that gun for 13 months of my life. I know I've literally shot that gun almost every single day for 13 months. I know what that gun sounds like. That's a 240. Am I wrong? Would Brent, your Delta Force operator guy, would he get on here and confirm that?
I think Brent knows too much, and that's why every time I bring a conspiracy up, he goes, oh, well, there's no way all these people could keep, because that's the biggest defense for non-conspiracy people, all those weirdos out there, is that they say there's no way everybody could keep this a secret. They can when there's money involved, and when they have videos of you fucking kids. That's how they keep secrets. So.
Yep.
Wait, let's. I'm going to keep playing this for just a second. Two guns. Wow, I can't imagine the terror, the horror that all these people must have been going through. And to not have a gun to fight back, it's just got to be.
I don't want to. I don't. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say, did a little bit of math while you guys were researching or while you guys were talking here. So the AR-15 has without a bump stock, or even with the bump stock. They're saying from the Nevada legislature, and Las Vegas is in Nevada, 45 rounds per minute. This firefight or this shooting lasted for 15 minutes at 45 rounds per minute, not reloading, not counting for anything else. If you're just rounding at 15 minutes, that's only 675 rounds. I've also found that he shot 1,049 rounds, and he had somewhere between 40, or his magazines had 40 round magazines and 100 round magazines. So even if you account for the time to reload, the math doesn't add up.
Well, you'd have to
too
be
many rounds in such a short amount of time.
You'd have to be a stud to be able to pull those many rounds out of a window, unless you were, I guess, on a tripod. I guess you could have had a bipod or a tripod, but holding a gun with a drum that size would be exhausting. You couldn't do that.
Here's another thing. Oh, go ahead, Anthony.
You couldn't do that for 15
I was
minutes.
gonna say I mean I've literally, as we've been talking, I've been I've been scrolling all of the pictures of the crime scene, and I don't see a tripod out that window. I mean, even where they have him by the window, for whatever reason, I thought he was shot in the chest, but his head is bleeding.
And Eric, so not counting the military, we're pretty proficient in our rifles. Law enforcement, you're telling me that a 64, 65-year-old man with a bump stock got into the prone and was able to shoot all the way down there and kill 58 people and wound 413? We know guys that we work with, or I work with, that can't hit a fucking target at 10 yards with an AR-15, and they're fucking cops and they train.
No, I mean, this guy sprang into a fucking fish bowl full of fish. Yeah, I mean, even the blind squirrel's going to get the nut in this case. What I think is more fantastic is, again, the math here. Again, there's so many impossibilities. The stars would have to align to pull something off like this. The math alone, 15 minutes, you know, I fired so many rounds. I've spent days on ranges, testing weapons, even putting, you know, as many rounds as I can through them. 1,000 rounds, 1,045 rounds to me is simply unbelievable. Listen, if you disagree with me, if you have a different range experience, you know, I can only go off of my own experiences. So feel free to hit me up on the Instagrams. It's Nightshift TSI on the Instagrammies. Send us a private message. Let us know if you have something different in my experience. And I'd like to think I have a lot of experience. At one time, we wanted to melt a 240 barrel. You know, we heard that if you fired it enough that you could literally melt the barrel where you couldn't get the barrel off. And we didn't want to take a 240 overseas with us. It had given us all sorts of issues and whatnots. And so my younger lieutenant at the time said, Eric, I want you to go out on the night fire range, and I don't want this gun operable enough to go back with to go overseas with us. And so we got as many rounds as we can. I don't know that it was 1,000, but I melted that fucking barrel, and as it glowed, I have video of this. It was throwing rounds left, right, up, down, because the barrel was like a Gumby arm. It was just melted. And you know, even in that time, I had to, you know, it jammed several times, so I had to, you know, yeah, and re-engage. So 1,000 rounds, 1,045 rounds on AR-15s with bump stocks, with no training, with very quick reloads. I mean, how many guns would he have to have? Can you do the math on that, Deadleg? If he has 40 round magazines, how many guns would he have to have, and how many reloads would he have to make to equal 1,000 rounds?
Give me just
a lot of math, dude. Can you do that math for me?
Well, Deadleg is the smartest guy on the channel. So if he can't do it, it can't be done. It could be, it just can't be done with us.
So I would also, if any of the, since there were so many victims, because you're looking at a total of over 800 people that were wounded.
Young, too. Very young.
Yeah. So if, by the grace of God, and I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist, but yes, I am. I have never ran into anybody in my entire life who has been who has been in any. I mean, not one. I've never met somebody who even knew somebody in any of these casualties that are plastered all over our TV. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Never met anybody in Boston
Wait, but I
bombings.
mean,
I've
you're in the
never met
gay
any.
community. You're not saying that you met one person that was at Pulse.
No, sir.
You're in Florida. You're an openly gay guy, and you're pretty.
No, sir. I've never met anybody who's even known anybody that was in it. Same thing goes for anybody who has been. You know, I've
That's an interesting point, though. I mean, it's an interesting.
I've unfortunately I've heard
Well,
of
okay,
people
so
who
here's
had family members in like September 11th, but I've never directly. I mean, there's 8
Right.
degrees of separation, right?
right.
So why
Well,
have I never ran into one person in any? Not one, not even Columbine, not from the 90s. Like I've never ran into one person that was like, yes, this person in my family died at this event. Why?
I mean, that's what got Alex Jones in trouble.
Yeah.
For saying
the Sandy Hook. He said that about Sandy Hook. And all you have to do is before you say anything like that, you just have to say, I'm not saying these events didn't happen. I just think it's weird.
I'm not saying that they didn't happen because clearly I'm seeing the photos, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm just
I
saying-
definitely believe that 56 people died, or however many people died. I believe that.
Sure,
400
but I'm
years-
saying why have.
But yeah, you're right. And like, why isn't their story? The person that gets attacked by a cougar, they're on 60 Minutes. I survived. Is there not a Mandalay Bay documentary about I survived? I mean,
Is there not some asshole that starts a podcast because he wants fucking answers? Look at us. We
we got Navy SEAls that killed Bin Laden, top secret information, and they were like, "I killed Bin Laden," but we don't have somebody that was like, "I was at Mandalay Bay," and I believe that there was more than 2 shooters. Yeah, I think that's a fair question. How about this? If you know somebody directly, or you can get us in touch with somebody that was at this Mandalay Bay shooting, follow us on Nightshift TSI on the Instagrams and let us know. I find that very interesting. And I'd also like to note, if you're in the military or you've got experience, do you think that that's a 240 Bravo versus a or at minimum a SAW? I mean, I think a bump stock M4 doesn't.
No,
They shoot
no.
Girl,
I try not to be insulting to people, but it's like I get people don't understand how guns are. Like a lot of people don't. All 3 of us do, but there's no way that's a bump stock. There's no way that's just one bump stock.
Look, I'm going to play a video of somebody shooting a bump stock. Let's just see. Let's just play it. Maybe we're wrong. Hang on. How do I put it up there? There we go. You got me on there. All right, let's see here. We'll play this video real quick.
And then once you pull back, how that goes back farther. You're trying to lay your finger on there.
Oh, shut
It
the
engages
fuck up. All right, here we go. Missed it. But he's out. That's how fast he's out. That's a
And it doesn't even have a consistent rhythm. It's like it's dirty sounding.
And he's jammed. He just cleared. Yeah, but you see that he's not sustaining those rounds. He's walking those way up into the stratosphere. He's trying to stay on target. Sorry. Oh God, how do I stop this nonsense?
And
you can remove it, Josh. Yeah, I mean, you see that he was able to do maybe a 2 to 3 second burst, and he was walked up into the stratosphere at that point.
yeah.
But what we're listening to is 7 seconds. That's a long time. Even on a 240, when you're holding the trigger of a 240 Bravo for 7 seconds, like you feel like you're fucking things up.
And one of the last things, we're not going to get into the helicopters because that's a whole nother thing. It's like diving into Stephen Paddock itself. That's a whole
far for me. That's too far to me. That's too far for me to believe.
Well, here's something. Here's
Person
something.
in the room.
The BWCs, there's still 2 missing BWC camera angles from the officers that went upstairs. They're missing. They're not accounted for, you're just not going to get them if you ask for them. Know who has those? Axon. Axon has those. And I could get started on how Axon is moving in 10 years to take over law enforcement and privatize everything. They're going to be the shot callers in law enforcement. If a city, a sheriff, a governor doesn't want to do something that Axon wants to do, they're going to have fucking problems, and they're going to have to conform to the private world, who has BWCs of that footage. Am I wrong, Eric?
I've heard other cops talk about Axon and kind of like even like they thought that Taser was going to be the guy, but you know, Axon I think scooped in, and isn't Axon even like trying to get in on the Taser game as well?
They bought him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there's a really long way to go down this rabbit hole. I think at the end of the day with this one, there's way more questions than answers. You know, for me, I think this one has been from day one, I have been a believer that this was a conspiracy from day one. And listen, I'm still not convinced about 9/11. So I'm not like this guy that just believes everything I hear. I think 9/11 did happen. I think that certain people may allow that to happen. I think there's some things that were allowed to happen and that we maybe knew about, but maybe like an Operation Northwood style thing. Type deal, but at the end of the day, I'm not like bought on all these 9/11 conspiracy, the full-blown conspiracy theory. I have a lot of questions on that. I don't go along with the Sandy Hook stuff, but with this one it doesn't, none of it makes sense to me. Like, it's sloppy. It's that bad to me that it's almost sloppy.
Yeah.
So I've gone through the first 10 names.
Are they all Jewish?
No. But I've looked up their obituaries came up and stuff. Yeah, no, I'm not doubting that there are victims in this, and my prayers obviously go out to the family. Is this something by chance that's another one of those things where it's put together by
George Soros
to push an agenda and have us in the line of fire, literally?
Right. I mean, you have to believe in Operation Northwood. I 100% believe in Operation Northwood, and I 100% believe that John F. Kennedy was killed because of Operation Northwood. If you don't believe Operation Northwood, or I'm wrong in believing Operation Northwood, then my theories, I think, going forward are all going to be wrong. But I think it's pretty clear and pretty safe to say that Operation Northwood did exist. I mean, the Wikipedia even acknowledges Operation Northwood. There's tons of data, tons of evidence, real life evidence about Operation Northwood. And the deeper you go into Operation Northwood, I mean, they were using a Cuban to shoot up a Cuban neighborhood in America so that the Cubans in America would be anti-Cuban in Cuba. So, I mean, that's a pretty well thought out false flag operation. That really did happen. That was a real discussion by the Department of Defense. Go and look that up. But Operation Northwood, and once you understand Operation Northwood and you've looked at all that evidence objectively, then all of these things are on the table.
I did your math for you.
Okay.
It would take 23.31 minutes not reloading with a single weapon. So he had to fire multiple weapons at the same time.
You can't fire 1,000 rounds through one weapon. So
yep.
Take that out.
And then just reading through, I have the criminal investigation report from the 1 October mass shooting casualty from the Las Vegas Police Department. And they note that the FBI had 95 personnel on ground within 24 hours. Within 48 hours, they had 150 people TDY, and they ultimately grew to 351 personnel from the FBI specifically that were TDY for this event.
Well, Vegas would be very easy to get that many fucking people to. I mean, flights in and out of Vegas are pretty easy to do. Plus, you've got tons of military bases, and
they're not using commercial flights. You've heard of the plane that flies in and out of Vegas, right?
Yes, yeah. But we also have, out of these 1,000 rounds, that this guy's going to aim at a tank to try to blow it up. I mean, your heart rate goes up, your adrenaline goes up. One, the planning to know that it's even there, and then to put rounds on that while all this at the same time, you're trying to get 1,000 rounds off in 15 fucking minutes is
You
not
don't even
possible.
as an American, you don't even
Not
need to know
possible.
all these details. You don't need to know the details. You need to know that fucking these were crew serve weapons. It was the investigation for the largest mass shooting in the United States history was ended in 10 months, right? All these things that just they don't add up. As an American,
Nothing.
everybody should go, wait, what? Even if there's no conspiracies, what if it was just a shitty investigation? Somebody should be held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know how this fucking guy got 1,045 rounds off like in 15 minutes. How many guns did he fucking have?
Yeah, I had a lot in the room at least.
Look at those pictures, dude. There was tons of guns in that picture. I mean, the bathtub was filled with them.
Yeah, it looks like it's just a nice scene set up by the fucking feds, bro.
Yeah,
Right.
and they're all over the place. So he's out of one window, he's which is way faster than that gunshot. Then he's got to run to the bathtub, grab another one.
That's what I'm saying.
In 15 minutes, come the fuck on. Oh, and then be like, oh, propane tank. Now let me go grab 3 guns and shuffle to the door. I mean, come on, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, it's crazy. You're crazy to think that this is real. That's how crazy I think you are. If you think I'm crazy for believing this, I think you're crazy for believing this because it can't fucking happen. You can't do it. Let's recreate it. Let's one dude try to get 1,000 rounds off in a controlled setting.
FBI watch list.
What? In a controlled setting, you fucks, on a fucking range.
So I'm going to send our listeners and our viewers away with this today. Some homework for y'all to go down the rabbit hole. I had no idea that the Vegas shooting was even associated to this airline. We just literally brought it up on the show. Janet Airlines is officially the name of a classified fleet of passenger aircrafts operated for the United States Department of Air Force as an employee shuttle to transport military, DoD civilians, and contracted employees to special access programs and facilities. The airline mainly serves Nevada's test and training range, most notably Area 51 and Tonopah Test Range from a private terminal, Las Vegas's Harry Reid International Airport. Then I continue to read, and then it says history, After the October 17th Las Vegas shooting massacre, news surfaced that the shooter, in addition to firing at concertgoers, had also targeted aviation fuel tanks at nearby McCarran International Airport. Further reporting by the New York Post suggests a possible connection between the vulnerable fuel tanks and the classified Janet Airways operation.
Whoa.
I mean, you have to be a really, again, like very well planned. You're under that amount of stress. And then to say you had no motive.
Tyler, all I said was, I'm thinking FBI is brought back and forth like that many, right?
Yeah.
That's all. That's the reason why I looked up Janet Airlines. I know that we have people going back and forth using a private airline for the government. Then I'm looking, fucking 2017 Las Vegas shooter. It's in the fucking same
It's right there.
Wikipedia search.
It is bizarre. The only reason that I can sleep in peace or sleep at all, knowing that I've been going down the rabbit hole and I'm learning all these crazy, spooky, conspiracy, wackadoodle things, is because I sleep on a ghost bed and I use the promo code ANT, A-N-T, for conservative ant. Ghostbed.com has all the beds with the cooling technology. They're beds made in the good old USA. And there's no conspiracy behind this. It's just a good night's sleep. They also have the pillows, the cooling sheets with the cooling technology, so that if you get hot at night, like they do in Vegas, you can sleep comfortably and cool. I always say stay cool while staying hard. No, stay cool while staying hot on a ghost bed using promo code ANT as in Anthony. Right now, you can get 50% off through the holidays. Get the bed, get the pillows, get the sheets, get all of them, get one of them, pick your bundle. They have bundling prices at 50% off. Wasn't good enough for you. 0% down, 0% financing. And that's if you have bad gambler credit. Head over to ghostbed.com and use the promo code ANT. We also have Factor Meals, meal planning to the next level. So if you're busy through the holidays, if you're a law enforcement officer, FBI agent that's listening to our show right now, homie, listen. You're still trying to stay fit. You're trying to do all those things, all the meanwhile listening to my beautiful voice and your corrupted headphones. You don't have time to be going to the grocery mart and doing all the things and doing all the meal prep that you need to do for the week. Instead, you can go to factormeals.com/Wolfpack. Meal planning to the next level. Over 300 menu items. These are meals delivered straight to your door, fresh and never frozen, chef prepared. You can get the calorie conscious if you're trying to slim down. You get the protein heavy if you're trying to bulk up. With over 30 grams of protein in each meal, you can do the vegan friendly, vegetarian friendly. They also have breakfast shakes, everything you need to get you through the week. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack 50 for 50% off and tell them Failure to Stop Media, C- Media sent you. Listen, Anti-Hero Podcast, you are a podcast that is on the C- Media Network along with Failure to Stop. This has been a Failure to Stop production. We love to hear you every single week on the Anti-Hero Podcast and then every Friday on the Failure to Stop breakdowns. Appreciate everything you do. Conservative Ant, you can find him at Conservative Ant, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. 1.4 million and growing across the board. And then, of course, we have the Nightshift TSI. You can follow me, Eric Tanzi. But from myself and these fellas right here, stay awake, stay alert, and stay alive.